I'm here to protect my home, and my neighbors are here to protect their home. The inherent value we place in that home, and the property values which are likely to go south in a big way. We stand to lose everything. You can talk about this as being, well, all we're going to do is take a little existing site that's there, and there is a site there that was put up in 1993, a very low-level injection site that's being fed by pipes running through neighboring properties. There's a little piston pump up there. You can take that and you can make it into a big commercial operation, and that's exactly what's going to take place here. And once you get that in place, you begin trucking this material in, and you open up the Pandora's box of where does it end. What's not to say that somewhere down the line, if it's deemed in the best interests of the parties involved in doing this, that they wouldn't apply for an additional permit to begin dumping fracking sludge there. There's precedence for this. I will be glad to share an article from the San Antonio paper that I made copies of with anybody here. I've been down south in San Ignacio. An existing injection well that they're now going to, that they applied a permit to bring the fracking waste in. What is the future development of this community, Wilson County here, if it's to continue in its current wonderful balance of agricultural and residential properties? Or is it to become basically a waste dumping ground with these injection wells, proliferating wherever? Where does it begin and where does it end? I mean, here's some additional points here. Obviously, there's a concern about water contamination, first and foremost. The Cibolo is less than a mile from this site. I have my horse down there. Degradation of the roads. Go down to Karnes County, take a look. Everybody knows what happens down there. Future's in sight on 539. Again, uncertain stuff, but there has been some discussion of potential links between tremors, earthquakes, and injection of these waste materials into the ground. Not for sure, but there's talk of it. The inevitable increase in tanker truck traffic and potential for accidents, already placing a further strain on EMS resources. As community leaders, particularly our commissioners here, I'm assuming you want to attract continued middle-class residential development to here, which is a good mix with our agricultural rural setting here. How is putting an oil waste dump site compatible with that? We have a strong school system here, funded by property taxes. What will happen to that type of funding if people no longer care to reside here because there's an oil waste dump site here? Maybe there's just one now, maybe there's another one down the line. Where does it begin? Where does it end? What is the future vision of the community? Mr. Johansson mentioned that there is a critical need for this well. I respectfully beg to differ. It will likely serve Mr. Johansson's interest to have this expanded commercial saltwater, brackish water dump site here in Wilson County. What about the property values and interests of those established residents who must bear the brunt of the inevitable tanker truck traffic? If it's a 9-hour operation, 9 to 18 trucks a day. It's 1 an hour, 2 an hour. If it's 24/7, 24 trucks a day. Again, where does it begin and where does it end? I'd like to address another issue here called absentee ownership. He extolled the virtues of Mr. Maribel. What he didn't tell you is that Mr. Maribel resides in Dripping Springs, does not reside in this community. An absentee ownership situation is threatening the equity that all of us close to this site have put into our homes, and the inheritance of that said home and property that we want to pass on to children, grandchildren, and future generations. Do his property rights as an absentee owner to put this commercial dump site here, expanded dump site, call it what you want, whatever verbiage you want to use, Do those trump the property rights of the already existing residences here? Again, absentee ownership in Dripping Springs, not a member or resident of this community. My wife works at Fort Sam. People working in an expanding San Antonio will likely want to move out to Wilson County to find a quality of life here. Do you want to continue to attract those middle-class tax-paying residents who will willingly move next to a commercial oil waste dumping site with all of the truck traffic coming in and out, all of the litter, all of the inherent things that go with it? What possible benefit will this bring to the community? I'd like to end by asking each and every person in this room who thinks that this is a sign of progress, or that this will ensure us that gas will never rise to $6 or $7 a gallon, I would like to ask them if they themselves would like to live next door to such a facility, or they themselves will offer their own property up to be used for such a facility. That is what everybody needs to ask themselves here. Would you want it next door to you? Or if you think it really means a lot to this community, would you offer up your own property for it? Mr. Buckley lives on top of the hill from us. He'll get the worst of it. My wife and I will get a real bad, big dose of it. I ask you in your collective wisdom and judgment to think really carefully about this. There are short and long-term implications about this. And again, there's precedence for this. These saltwater, brackwater injection sites are not harmless sites, okay? They're not harmless sites, okay? Once you start running those trucks in there, there's all kinds of other things that goes with it. And again, there's no stopping in the future for the ownership, if it so decides it's in their best interest, to expand to fracking sludge, et cetera, et cetera.
Sir, I talked to you at length on the phone some time back.
Yes, sir.
And you had been in contact with Evergreen Water District, and you said that you was expecting a call back from them.
Yes, sir.
As to they was coordinating with the Railroad Commission.
Well, what they were doing, they were not necessarily coordinating with what Mr. Mahoney was doing. He was investigating the situation. Mr. Johansson, he described it from a certain vantage point. Yes, on paper, sure. There's casings that were put down in the ground, and there's prescribed depth, 1993. Okay, we're talking about now going up there. And
did he? So really and truly, that's where you need to take your case, is to the Texas Railroad Commission. And in my opinion, anyone else wants to weigh in on that? That's.
I can say one thing, Judge. There would probably be one put in my precinct. The community. They all signed a petition and presented it to the Railroad Commission to stop it. Now the Railroad Commission will listen to y'all. We have no control over disposal wells, like the judge said. If somebody wants to put one in, we can't stop them. But the best thing to do is for y'all to contact the Railroad Commission.
Those steps have been taken, sir.
And then
I mean, we're coming to you basically because you are our governance. I mean, you are the local authorities here, and so we're doing this in a proper manner.
Well, it's kind of like I've told you. I want to represent you. I want to represent Mr. Johansson. I want to represent everyone. So, from my standpoint, I'm basically going to. I feel like that in this instance, from what I understand both ways, that the Railroad Commission has got ample control to make sure that's safe for your point. Actually, like a few years ago, when we looked at putting a detention center here, and people said, "Can you absolutely guarantee that no one will escape from that?" I said, "No, they escape from Alcatraz." You know, that's. I mean, there's always scenarios when things can go wrong. I mean, in extreme situations. But at the same time, on that, just as those people travel up and down this roadway every day, that's just as hazardous as some of those in that penitentiary. So I mean, it's not a perfect world, you know. And I applaud you for looking for your residents, your community and everything, but I'm just not in a position to take any action myself. If you can convince the Railroad Commission, that's your prerogative. But as far as my own self, I see growth every day. We're fixing to build, hopefully, in the next year or two out on a hill, and day before yesterday or so, they moved a trailer house right on the next hill. We're going to be looking right in the back of it. But that's...
But you're not putting a oil waste dump site there.
No.
That's the qualitative and quantitative difference here. I mean, again, you know, residential growth is compatible with what's going on here. I mean, this is it's a good mix. This is something entirely different.
Judge, if I may, you know, this is, from my perspective, you know, I don't have the knowledge to look at the injection well and say it's safe, it's not safe. As Commissioner File said, you know, he's had one that's been maybe not permitted, but coming in, and there have been petitions. We're going to see a lot of this. It's just my concern, if you assume that the Railroad Commission does test and they do know what they're doing, then from the standpoint environmentally, maybe there's not much of a concern. From the standpoint socially, having trucks coming in and out, I can see that as a concern. The concern that I have for not only your area, but for the county in general, and there's nothing we can do about it to a degree, is just the effect on infrastructure. Precinct 2 sees it every day. And the funds that are available to Road and Bridge is not sufficient to keep up with it. But yet there's nothing we can do, and I don't know that we'd want to do anything, because the success of the Eagle Ford is going to mean a lot to the county in the long term, from the standpoint of tax rates and everything else. But it is an issue that this is probably just the first of many.
Well, just one last thing before I go. I find it hard to believe that if this site doesn't go forward here, that somehow it will bring the oil industry to its knees and a stop, or lead to $6-7 a gallon gas. I find that hard to believe.
You know, I sat and listened to the same comments you did, sir. And I think what he was meaning is the oil industry as a whole, not this site, but the oil industry as a whole. If it's stifled and not allowed to develop within our nation and our state, then we're going to be handicapped and actually utilizing the foreign oil that's made us so dependent on that. Now wait just a second. Texas has grown from 20 million to 25 million over the last 10 years. And it's going to continue to grow because of the way that Texas has conducted business as compared to the rest of the United States. Growth brings those problems. It's just like I told you a while ago, the traffic across the county is tenfold. If they're able to dispose of that locally, instead of driving those trucks from the Lavernia area down to the South County line near Kosciuszko or Pavelicville, then that takes some pressure off the roadways that's using all these trucks. There's a pros. I understand what you're saying. You know, there's things like goes on in my home that in growth that I prefer not to, but it's happening, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen at a larger scale than what we've seen in the years past. So we just need to make the best out of what we have and to do the best we can.
Tremendous amount of respect for all of you. I've never met you, Mr. Olson, and I don't consider you an enemy in any way, form, or fashion, and I hope you don't me. We are going to have to somehow live together, and we have, believe it or not, for 31 years, or I don't know how long you've been here, but I've been here for 31 years, and coexisted. Now, do we have problems every now and then? Yeah. I'm not saying we're perfect, but when we find out we have a problem, we correct those. I, too, have investments right next door. Right next door, I've got 5 residential properties in Quail Run. I am not going to do anything, or wouldn't want to do anything, that would harm those investments. I personally live at the end of County Road 332. GEM has their yard practically in my front yard. I watch 30, 40 trucks a day, if I stayed home. I don't. Come by my house. There is no trash. There is no excess noise. We have coexisted there since 1999. Yes, we have. I have never called GEM, ever, to complain about one thing that they've done. Is my property value lower? I don't know. I don't plan on selling. I love where I live. I have nothing against them. We can coexist because we're neighbors, and we try to exist together. Everybody has a dog in his hunt. Just to give you another small example, I put a mini storage unit between Coffin Road and Deer Park. I found out that the whole entire subdivision was going to sue me because they didn't want that mini storage unit there. And you know what I heard from them? It's going to become a drug-infested, horrible area. There's going to be trash everywhere. It's going to be one horrible, terrible, awful place. I said, no, it's not. Well, they wouldn't believe me. They sued me anyway. And I said, okay, we'll go to court. And I told them right to their face, even though we are going to be on opposite ends of this situation, in court, you're still my friend. If I see you walking down the street, I'll extend my hand, I'll shake your hand. If you refuse it, that's up to you. We can be on opposing sides of an issue and still live together, work together, and be friendly toward one another. I hope we can resolve this issue together. I promise, Patrick will make this a clean environment. As far as the noise, Bubba, how many times just has that pump kept you up at night?
Not the one now, but when they go in there running.
I just was wondering. It's going to be about the same pump, same noise level. Another problem, I just want to mention this. It's okay for you to have a truck, to drive down 539, and to work in and out of there, but you don't want other trucks to have that same privilege. To me, that's a little bit hypocritical, I'll be honest. So we can all coexist together if you don't conjure up all of these horrible, terrible, awful things that are not going to happen. You can absolutely just blow things out of proportion and make things sound like it's the worst case scenario for everything.
Well, we don't know that's going to be the case.
Well, all I can say is I've not heard one complaint, not one, on my mini storage. And anyway,
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Commissioner Wiley's precinct 4 on County Road 417, you did a great job getting that road completed between Highway 87 and 123. Has the road changed any since Coastal Plains started running their trucks in and out of there?
It sure has.
It's deteriorated, hasn't
Sure
it?
has. That's part of the infrastructure that I spoke about earlier.
Correct. And it's going to get worse because there's a saltwater disposal well that's been permitted. I believe it was on January the 10th, if I recall right. So those trucks should be coming in. They're leaving right now unloaded, going to gather oil. Their trucks are going to come back loaded, or they're going to have separate, different trucks. But either way, to that disposal well. A lot of people say, well, it's not a disposal well yet. They're drilling into the Austin Chalk, but it says in the permit, Coastal Plains SWD, that's saltwater disposal. It's going to be eventually. But you're going to have to go through all the railroad commission is going to be involved.
You're covering ground we've already covered.
But anyway, he was just speaking, whatever. I just wanted to bring.
Well, I'm just speaking right now.
Have a seat, sir.
I just want to see how long the period, sir.
We have a right to speak. That's what this
He
is
has-
for, is we have a right to speak. That's right. At a hearing, that's what this hearing is about.
Well, he has
You're
spoken.
denying his right to speak at the.
We're talking about a saltwater, on the agenda, is a saltwater disposal well on 539. What he's talking about now is a different subject altogether. And we will go ahead and maintain order in the court and move on to the next subject.